Got late. This is Chapter 7, December 31st, 2002, New Year's Eve. The day after her first meeting with the police, Amber and Scott exchanged messages before speaking at 4:18 p.m. Amber, hi. Amber remained composed. Amber, if you can hear me, it's New Year's, Scott spoke over the static on the line. As he spoke, a tiny recorder attached to Amber's cell phone hummed away, capturing every word he said. I know, I can hear you, Amber responded. Amber, are you there? Scott spoke into the phone. Are you having a good time? Amber, hey, Happy New Year, Scott said. Happy New Year, Amber replied. Scott began to spin an amazing story for his girlfriend. I'm near the Eiffel Tower for the New Year's celebration, he said. It's unreal. The crowd is huge. It was another of the grandiose lies that Scott seemed to use to bolster his ego. He did not realize that the composed young woman on the other end knew that she was being scammed. He told Amber that he had been trying to find a quiet place to call her. With all the celebratory noise, he claimed, it was hard to hear. Of course, he had never left California. The crowd's huge, Amber asked. Amber, if you are there, I can't hear you right now, but I'll call you on New Year's Eve. I'll call you on your New Year's, Scott told her. There was crackling on the line, as if the caller was actually thousands of miles away. Okay, I'll hear from you then, Amber responded. Amber, I miss you. I'll see you soon, Scott said before the call clicked off. The phone rang again. It was Scott calling back. Hello? Amber eyed the tape recorder to confirm that it was still whirling. Baby, it was Scott. Can you hear me? Yes, Amber replied. I found a quiet place. It's pretty good, huh? Scott said, referring to the phone's reception. How's your New Year's? Amber asked. It's pretty awesome fireworks, Scott said with a laugh. The Eiffel Tower. Uh-huh, Amber acknowledged. Well, that's good. I'm glad you guys decided to go out. Elaborating on his tale, Scott listed his companions by the names Jeff, Francois, and Pascal, a friend from Spain. Good, Amber said. Did you make any New Year's resolutions? What should my New Year's resolution be? Oh, I don't know. That was my question, Amber retorted. I'll come up with something good, Scott responded with a chuckle. So, if you can hear me, I miss you and I'll try to call you back. It will be 9 o'clock here in the morning, but I'm going to call you back for your New Year. Talk to you soon, baby. At police headquarters, a press conference was underway. Sergeant Cloward read from the prepared statement. As we continued to profile Lacey's background, gather witness statements, recognize her close relationship with friends and family, investigate the circumstances of her disappearance, and in view of the timing with the holiday season, it is becoming more apparent that her disappearance is the result of foul play. The investigation is progressing forward with that as the main focus, but we have not ruled out other possibilities. What he didn't say was that the investigation was beginning to focus on Scott Peterson as the chief suspect. In the glare of TV camera lights, officers announced a $1,000 reward for information leading to the identification of the person or persons responsible for the burglary at the home across the street from the Petersons on Covina Avenue. The break-in, they noted, took place sometime between December 24th and 26th. Information in that case could be relevant to Lacey's disappearance because of the timing and the proximities to the Peterson home. Officials repeated the eyewitness description of the suspect of the three dark-skinned, although not African American males, short in stature. They were also looking for an older model full-size van, tan or light brown in color, with one or possibly two doors in the rear. As the press conference continued, Detective Grogan was in an upstairs interview room with Scott's parents, Lee and Jackie Peterson. The 59-year-old Jackie's chronic lung disorder was reportedly the product of repeated bouts of pneumonia as a child, and she used supplemental oxygen throughout the interview. The Petersons told Grogan that they lived in Solano Beach near San Diego and that they had driven to Modesto as soon as they had learned that Lacey was missing. During the interview, they provided the police with more background information on their son. In response to questions, the couple told Grogan that Scott had landed his job with Trade Corp through one of his professors at Cal Poly. Scott tested for a managerial production position and was hired soon after. At first, he had worked out of his home in Modesto until he was able to get a client base and rent a warehouse. The company knew that it would take some time for him to show a profit. Lee explained when asked if they were aware that Scott had recently purchased a boat. Lee and Jackie Peterson shook their heads. Although they knew that Lacey was no longer bringing home a paycheck and there was a baby on the way, neither of Scott's parents questioned the investment. The boat was clearly an indulgence of his own, as Scott certainly knew Lacey's motion sickness would keep her off the water. But Lee Peterson said that the purchase didn't surprise him because his son liked to experiment with things. Apparently, Scott had made similar purchases, a car, a motorcycle, without mentioning them to his father. On its own, such behavior might appear harmless, of course, but in hindsight, it seems impulsive, irresponsible, and selfish. Scott's parents said that both Scott and his wife wanted to have a child. Jackie believed that they had been trying to get pregnant for about 3 years. The frustrated couple had just began researching fertility testing when Lacey announced that she was expecting. Grogan did not dare ask the Petersons about Scott's affair with Amber Fry. At the East La Loma Park, more than 1,000 people gathered for the New Year's Eve candlelight vigil. Scores of Lacey's friends and former classmates and the teachers packed into the grassy knoll around a makeshift stage, a flatbed trailer adjacent to the police department's mobile command center. As dozens of satellite news trucks surrounded the perimeter, reporters and the cameraman grabbed sound bites from the closest to Scott and Lacey. Scott Peterson was in attendance that night. Yet, many observers found it odd that Scott never spoke with the press and was avoiding the TV cameras. Furthermore, he chose not to join the other family members on stage, staying instead on the ground and away from the spotlight. Lee and Jackie Peterson joined Lacey's parents and siblings on the podium, where they took turns speaking, urging the swelling crowds to continue the search for Lacey. Hundreds of people, their shoes wet from standing in soggy grass, raised glowing candles as Sharon Rocha took the microphone. Many in the crowd wore pale yellow and blue ribbons pinned to their clothes, the yellow to symbolize hope and the blue for the baby boy Lacey was expecting. Applause rang out as Lacey's mother pleaded with the crowd to just keep looking for her daughter. "Don't give up," a teary Sharon told the onlookers. Her voice cracked as she uttered the words. Standing beside her was Modesto's chief of police, Roy Wasden. "Wherever the search takes us, let us keep looking for Lacey," Wasden told the crush of participants, as a sea of flickering candles danced in the wind. Lacey's father, Dennis Rocha, came to the vigil from Detective Grogan's office. Like Peterson, Lacey's dad sat down for an interview with the police that day. Rocha looked as though he'd been through hard times. His skin appeared wrinkled and leathery from exposure to the elements and from the difficult life he had led. Rosha wore his thick salt and pepper hair combed to one side and a bushy mustache curled upward towards his cheeks. Behind dark-rimmed glasses, his eyes were red and swollen, no doubt from crying. Dennis told Grogan that he was Lacey's natural father and that he and Lacey's mother had been married for 7 years, having married young, he said. They had lived on his parents' ranch in Escalon during the early years together. After the two divorced, he visited with Lacey every other weekend until she was 16. Once his daughter got a car, she wanted to spend more time with her friends and to pursue other interests. He understood and didn't force her to make the trip. Dennis told the police that his mother, Helen Rosha, had been very helpful with Lacey and his two other children, Brent and Amy. She had recently passed away and had left Lacey some of her fine jewelry. She was a lady, Dennis said. About how much was your father's estate worth? Grogan inquired. Dennis said that the ranch was sold for about $500,000 and that there was an equal amount in stock. After the divorce, Dennis paid child support regularly and noted that he and his ex-wife were still friends. He described Sharon as a bit prissy but very attractive when the two had started dating. Like Lacey, his ex-wife was a cheerleader during high school. In Dennis's opinion, however, all of his children were somewhat spoiled. Sharon had indulged both Lacey and Brent, he said, as did their paternal grandparents. Dennis admitted that he and his older daughter had grown estranged after Lacey went off to college. Since her move to Modesto, he had seen her only about a dozen times on holidays and birthdays. 8 months earlier, on May 4th, Dennis was with the family as Lacey turned 27. That birthday would be her last. During the interview, Dennis Rosha also expressed concern about his son-in-law, Scott Peterson. While he had never heard Lacey complain about her husband, he felt that Scott had always acted like he was too good for us. He also ventured that something doesn't sound right in his story. As he told Grogan, you don't go fishing by yourself. Dennis also told Grogan that Scott had been giving me the cold shoulder, and he said that he was convinced that his son-in-law's emotional outbursts were nothing more than an act. He has not attended a press briefing since the press started asking questions about him. He got up and ran out and hasn't been back since. I think he was jealous of the baby. That's what made him do it, Rosha told the detective. Hurrying to the park, Dennis Rosha joined his son, Brent, and daughter, Amy, on the stage, where Sharon Rosha, Ron Gratzky, and Scott's parents were already gathered. All of them made public, heartfelt pleas for Lacey's safe return. Scott Peterson was conspicuously silent. He insisted that he wanted the focus of the evening to be on his missing wife, not him. At one point, Scott was nowhere to be found, yet photographers captured his image mingling and smiling with friends. Months later, that picture would be juxtaposed with the grieving faces of other attendees on the large screen in a California courtroom. At the stroke of midnight, Amber's phone rang, celebrating at Sean Sibley's New Year's Eve party. She had stepped outside to take the call. Happy New Year's, Amber said. Happy New Year, Scott responded. So tell me, what is your New Year's resolution? Amber asked, picking up a theme from their last call a few hours before. It was an interesting question. Amber attempted to elicit some information about Scott's future plans. She would continue her performance as both confidant and inquisitor for more than a month. I didn't even think of one. You didn't think of one? Amber retorted. You had 9 hours to think of one. My New Year's resolution is, and actually, I thought of you for this one. Which one do you want me to share first? First, yours first, Amber continued. My New Year's resolution for you would be to not travel so much and to spend more time with me and Ayana. What do you think of that? Is that something on your mind or anywhere close? Oh, yeah, for a long time I could care for you, care for each other, and we could fulfill each other. And Diana, what? We could be together, could care for her, and raise Ayana. Uh huh. We could fulfill each other forever. So Amber cleared her throat. I know you said before that you'll be back by my birthday, so anticipate any plans? Do you have anything in mind? For your birthday? Yeah, I'll have to come up with something good. I haven't even thought about what we should do for Ayana's birthday party, so how would you feel about meeting Ayana's grandparents? Not my parents, Ayana's father's parents. Scott said that he thought that it would be fine. He didn't see anything weird about it. You'd be okay, she said. I can't think of any reason why I wouldn't be, Scott agreed. Yet, when pressed by Amber, Scott cited several differences between them that could cause their relationship not to work. Like I've never gone to church much, and that could be a point for you, and would we see eye to eye on raising Ayana, and how would you accept our role? I can think of others, but those are major right now. Mm-hmm. The fact that you want another child, right. Do you still feel that you're very adamant about not having another child? I wouldn't say adamant, but it's just not my thought. Later in the conversation, Amber tried once more to pin Scott down on his travel plans. Do you even know when you're coming back? Scott said that he would be in Guadalajara on January 28th through February 2nd. That's certainly something for me to look forward to, Amber replied. Yeah, but what we need to do, sweetheart, is not analyze our relationship. I'm not analyzing. You know what I mean, Scott said. We just need to spend a little more time together and let it grow. At one point, Amber asked Scott about the book he had been reading. What book was that? Jack Kerouac? Kerouac? Jack Kerouac? Sorry, sir. It was Hitchhiking Across the Country. Oh shoot, what's his book? Late 60s movie, Hitchhike New York to San Francisco. I can't think of the name right now. Scott seems to have been thinking of Kerouac's On the Road and perhaps confusing it with the 1967 film Easy Rider. That's good. Good book though. Did you enjoy it? Yeah, it was interesting because I never had a prolonged period of freedom like that from responsibility. Here was another telling statement from Scott, a clear suggestion that he had been thinking about the burdens of adult life, responsibilities in his case, and that included caring for Lacey and their baby. He was dreaming about being free to travel and pursue other women, and to become an entirely different person from the doting husband and fertilizer salesman that he had become. The conversation turned to religion and then to banter about their ages. Amber told Scott that she was looking forward to her 30s. You're really cute, Scott laughed. He told Amber he was already old, already in midlife. You're not old. You're so young, Scott. You're not even at midlife. You're in great shape and you have an awesome body. My knees are cracking, Scott said. That's nothing. My knees crack. It's nothing. So tell me, do you think I'm intelligent? Amber asked. Yeah, that was one of the qualities I was thinking of, What the quality was that I'm thinking about now? No. Tell me. Scott's response was inaudible. Me? Amber replied. How is that? You have good self-esteem, and it's difficult to find people, and it makes you incredibly sexy and appealing to me. That's something I've worked very hard on, Scott, not something that came easy to me. You've done a great job. There's always been something that I always keep it to the surface, Amber said. She began to cry. Causing everything in its time. Everything in its time serves a purpose. Yeah. I'm sorry. Oh God, don't ever say that. Don't ever say you're sorry for sharing. What? I'm here for you. What was that? Amber wept. I'm here for you. I wish you were. But I am, and I will be, Scott consoled. As he spoke, a dog, probably Mackenzie, barked in the background. I'm smearing my mascara down my face, Amber giggled. You're wonderful, Scott said. I'm drinking a Guinness Extra Stout on top of my 3 cranberry lime twists. You're having breakfast? Yeah, that's a good way to look at it, Amber giggled. So when do I get to hear from you again, Scott? I'll call you when it's the nighttime. When's your nighttime? There's a 9-hour difference. I will take the train late tonight from here to Brussels, and then I'll be in Brussels for at least 4 days. All I'm saying is I don't know when you go to sleep. Oh, probably midnight or 1. So what would be? 3 or 4 your time, and okay, so you go to bed at 9, and it's 6 o'clock my time. I don't go to bed until 11, so 8 your time. Okay, I might be up then. I'd like to talk to you at that time. To me, it's the most intimate time. The most intimate time because that time of day our psyches are in, focused on relationships as opposed to getting up in the morning and doing things and going to pick up the dry cleaning, Scott said. You go back to the party. Okay. And our relationship will grow. I have confidence in that. Scott's call to Amber lasted 70 minutes. Before it was through, Detective Bueller noted Amber had confirmed many details that had been brought up in the interview Brockney and I conducted with her on Monday, 12/30/02. Among these were his supposed travel arrangements. She was able to get him talking about plans for his return from Europe and his travel to Mexico. Returning to the United States on January 25th, an agreement was made to continue phone contact around the same time each night. As soon as this relationship became public, commoners and onlookers speculated that Amber Frey was the motive for Lacey's murder. However, this explanation has never resonated with me. Scott's pattern of extraneous lies and narcissistic behavior overrode any sincere love for this woman. Rather, the one thing Scott Peterson seemed to care about was rejecting his life as a small-time fertilizer salesman in Modesto, saddling with a suburban wife and an 18-year obligation she was about to bear. He preferred to think of himself as an international playboy who swept into town from time to entertain his mistresses with fine meals and grandiose tales of his escapades and glorious future. His stories and his actions were not for Amber Frey. They were simply for Scott Peterson.